Hello and welcome to the second part of our Firebase Read tutorial. So last week we covered setting up our database to be able to read from it, set up our app to be able to use Firebase, and created a data model to retrieve and hold our data. This week we'll be creating a simple UI to display our data to the user and then test to see if it all works. So without further ado, let's get back to work. Okay, so with the data model done, we're now going to be dealing with creating the UI for the app. So that's it. This is a twofold task. So we've got to first write the XML for the actual UI itself, and then we need to write the Kotlin code that makes use of that XML. So what we're first going to do is create the UI XML first, and then we're going to write the Kotlin code. So inside your res layouts, you have an activity main. Open that up. Remove and we want to get rid of this text view because that's just what they added in standard. So remove that, and we're going to replace it with the list view because this is going to be basically this is a very simple UI that all its job is to display data that we get from Firebase. There is no frills in it whatsoever. You can obviously expand on it if you'd like to. This is just the quickest and easiest way to do it. So what we're going to do is create a list view. We're going to set it to, and because we're using a constraints layout, we're going to 0dp the width and height. So it'll be match constraints. So constraints start to start of parent, end to the end of parent, top to top of parent, and bottom to bottom of parent. You can also do that in the UI layout by dragging the constraints. However, I prefer to type them out because it's just what I'm more used to, and I find it's easier. We also need to give the list view an ID. So Android ID equals app plus ID / cake _ list. Okay, and you can see now because we put an ID in, we've now actually got the list view is now filling stuff out. Okay, we're just going to add a few other bits. So we're going to set the background to be white, and in hexadecimal that's treble F. And we're also going to set a divider to null. So divider will be null at null, and divider height is going to be 0dp. That the main activity UI is now done. We've now got to create a second UI item. Before we do that, let's fix this compiler warning. So this compiler warning is because it's got an empty XML. This XML tag has got an empty body. To fix that, all you got to do is just get rid of this closing tag and make it self-closing. Making sure that you actually also make sure it doesn't get rid of the starting tag. And there we go. So, as I was saying, we're going to create a second layout. So a new layout resource file, and this is just going to be called Cake Card Item. Put in text view, keeping your preview open. Now this is going to be what actually holds the data from Firebase. This is what it'll be displayed in. So this will be used in a part of an adapter that can then basically, for every single cake in the database, it will instantiate a new item. So what we're going to do is we're going to, inside the constraint layout, we're going to add a new constraint layout. The width is going to be 0dp, and the height is going to be wrap content. Okay, we're then going to set the margins. So layout margin start is going to be 10 dp. Layout margin end is also going to be 10 dp. Margin top 10 dp, and bottom is going to be 10 dp. We also need to constrain it, so I will constrain it using the UI layout to show you how it's done. So let me just add one so we can actually see where it is. So constraint start to the start of parent. So there we go. Create connection to the parent. Okay, it won't let me add the other two constraints because I can't see it there, so we will actually instead add it in here. But as you did see, I did snap it by holding on that circle and connecting it to the outer constraint layout. So constraint end to end of parent, and to save me some time, I'm going to Control C, Control V. Bottom to bottom of. And there. Okay. It's now constrained it quite nicely. Just going to. Okay, one. That's actually now a good time to actually point out one of the downsides of adding the constraints via the UI is that it will actually auto add any margins, as you can see, and it will actually overwrite margins. So it's a bit funny adding it via the UI, which is why I like doing it via the code, via text. So we'll be able to put those back in. So just overwrite them. And one last one we're going to need to add is to add clipped padding to be false. Okay. Now inside of this constraint layout, we're going to add 3 text views. With a width of 0 dp and a height of wrap content. Just going to do one and then we'll copy the other 2. So we're going to set the text size to 20 sp. And we're going to constrain the start and end to parent. And we're going to constrain the top to the top of the parent. And top to the top of parent. Okay. One last thing we are going to add though is just for safety, is we're going to set max lines to 1. That way it won't try and make multiple lines. It won't try and add, it won't put a value into multiple lines. So now what we're going to do is just Control C and copy it twice, and then we're going to just set the ID of all of them. So the middle one is going to be the date baked. So cake card date bake. ID is going to be cake card name. And then the third one, save a bit of time, just copy and paste it. It's not going to be date bake, it's going to be expiry date. Okay. One last thing we have to do is we don't want to constrain on the second and third text view. We do not want to constrain the top to the top of parent. We actually want to constrain the top to the bottom of the text view above them. So in the date bake is going to be card name. So at plus ID, wherever the plus key is, slash make it does it automatically. Bottom of ID slash name. I'll do the same kind of thing. So it is in the name. It is date bake. Okay. Now the last thing we're going to do is on the absolute the main parent. So we're just going to set the height to wrap content. That way everything then just gets pushed to the top. I'm going to save that because that's then our item done and our activity done. So now we have created our main UI for the app. So the only thing left to do is going to be to write the Kotlin to make use of it. So let's get to it. Okay, so next we're going to be writing the Kotlin that can make use, that will basically bring everything that we've written together. So this is again a two-part that we're going to be doing. So we're going to first write into the main activity, and then we need to write an adapter that can make use of the cake card item populating our list view. So let's start writing our main activity. So inside our main activity, what we need to first do is notice how it is extending app compat activity. We also need to make it do the same with observer, capital I. Now we've written that, you can see that we've now got some red underlines. What you want to do is click the red light bulb with a exclamation mark, and you want to implement members. You want to click OK. And that now implements the function that we need to make observer work. For neatness, I'm going to put that at the bottom. That's just because that's my particular way of ordering my code. And we're going to, for now, get rid of the template code from it. So in our onCreate, what we're going to do is we're going to first instantiate our model. So in Kotlin, it's very simple because we've created an object, not in a class as what would be in Java. All we have to do is do CakeModel, and that is the equivalent of m underscore is saying CakeModel.getInstance. That is literally the same. What we're going to do now is do CakeModel dot add observer, passing in this because we are an instance of observer because we have the update function. We're now going to create a read-only variable, so val data list, which is going to be of type ListView. We call find view by ID, passing in r.id.cakeList. And we're going to add an import for the list view. We're now going to create another read-only variable called the data, which is of type ArrayList of cake. It's going to equal a new array list. Okay, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create a member variable. So up here, it's going to be a private var CakeListAdapter, so which is going to be a cake card adapter, which we are going to write after we have finished writing our main activity. ADAPTER. It's going to be an optional. It's going to equal null. Now you can see that's got is highlighted in red. That's because CakeAdapter doesn't exist yet. We will need to write it, and we will be writing it after we have written the main activity. So going back down to here, so we're now going to do CakeListAdapter will equal CakeCardAdapter. CakeCardAdapter. And the parameters we will need to pass in are going to be this and r.layout.cakeCardItem and data. Then what we're going to do is do datalist.adapter will equal CakeListAdapter. Okay. Now what we're going to do is go into the update function. So the update in our app is going to run whenever there is a change to the database. So if there is a change to the database, what we need to make sure we do is that we need to clear our adapter, so get rid of any old data, get the updated data from the cache, make sure that data isn't null, so we actually do have data, and then we want to pass that data back into our adapter. So basically, it just refreshes the entire adapter whenever something has changed. This is how you're meant to do it, because whenever your cache is replaced whenever there is a change to the database. If you don't do this, the app will basically just duplicate your data anytime there is a change to the database. So what we're going to do is we're going to do CakeListAdapter (clear). Now this is thrown up a compiler warning because obviously we haven't technically created anything, the variable properly yet, because the type doesn't exist, so it doesn't really know what to do with that. But once we have written the CakeCardAdapter class, it will then work properly. So we're going to go new line, value data will equal CakeModel dot get data. I'm going to check to see if data is not equal to null. If it is not null, then we're going to do CakeListAdapter dot clear CakeListAdapter dot add all, passing in data, and finally CakeListAdapter dot notify data set changed. Okay, there's only one more thing we need to do on this page, and that is all to do with the observers. And that is that we need to make sure that if we go away from this page, we delete the observer, and whenever we come back to the page, we re-add it. If we don't do that, that can cause memory leaks. So to do that, all we need to do is override function on resume. And we'll want to do CakeModel.addObserver this. And then do the same thing for stop and pause. So override function on pause. CakeModel.deleteObserver, parsing in this, and override function on stop, and CakeModel.deleteObserver this. And then that is the main activity written. Now the last thing we're going to have to do is to write the adapter. So what we're going to do is going to right click, new, we're going to create a new package, we're going to call it adapters. Making sure we keep everything organized. And inside adapters, we're going to create a new Kotlin class. Make sure it's a class you select, and it's going to be called CakeAdapter. Get rid of the template code. And what we're going to do is we need to make sure we pass in the data into the CakeAdapter. So we need to pass in a context. So context, just going to be a type context. Resource as an int. And the list, which is a type array list, cake. And it will extend array adapter of type cake. I'll enter to make sure to import cake. And inside, and for array adapter, we need to pass in a context, resource, and list. Okay. So what we're now going to do is inside of the class, we're going to create some member variables. So private var m resource, which is of type int, will equal 0. Private var m list, which is of type array list, type cake. Private var m layout inflator, which is going to be a layout inflator. And private var m context, which is of type context, which will equal context. As you can see, these two have red wiggly underlines, so that they are compiler errors, and that's because they're not actually being initialized. So, but that's because we're going to be initializing them in the init of the CakeAdapter. So, a couple new lines. Init curly braces. This dot m resource will equal resource. This dot m list will equal list, and this dot m layout inflator make sure it's named properly, will equal m context dot get system service context dot layout inflator service as a layout inflator. Okay. So now we have got the init written. We're now going to write the GetView. So override function GetView using the hint suggestions. Okay, we're not going to return yet, so remove that for now. Inside view, we're going to question mark it, as well as unquestion mark in the view group. We're going to create a read-only variable, so val return view, just of type view. We're going to check to see if convert view is null. If it is, then we're going to be setting the return view to equal a try, and we're going to set it to m layout, and we're going to do m layout inflator dot inflate, passing in m resource and null as the root. Just got to set the catch as e:\exception, and inside the catch we're going to do e.print stack trace, and we're also going to do view bracket context. After we have done that, we're then going to call a function called setUI that we're going to be writing in just a second, passing in return view and position, and then we're going to call return view. After that, we're then going to do the exact same thing after the null check. So that way, if the convert view is not null, it will then do the same thing. Okay, so that's the GetView written. Now all we've got to do is just write the setUI function. One thing I did miss though was that in the setUI, we don't want to do call return view. We want to do convert view, because convert view is a null at this point. And the same here. So after the GetView, we're going to do private function set UI. We're going to pass in a view, and we're going to pass in a position. Open curly braces. Okay, we're going to create a read-only variable called cake, which is a optional variable of type cake. It's going to equal. Now, unfortunately, a bit of a downside with Kotlin is that it doesn't support ternary operators the same way as what other languages do. This one is kind of a half ternary, so it is actually still an if statement, but it's laid out to look like a ternary, so it's kind of half and half. It's just something to kind of note. So to do that, all we got to do is if count is greater than position, we're going to call getItem position else null. So in Java, to write this as a ternary, we wouldn't have to put the if, and where it has the we would instead put a question mark here, and instead of an else, we would have a colon. It's a minor thing, but it's just something to worth note. Now, what we're also going to do is we're going to get the text views of each inside of the item of the card item. So val cake name is going to be of type text view. It's going to be an optional in case it can't find it for some reason. We call view dot find view by ID r.id CakeCard name, and then we're going to do cake name question mark dot text will equal the object cakes dot name. Then we're going to use an Elvis operator, empty string. Okay, and we're going to basically do the exact same thing for the other two text fields. So we're going to just copy and paste those, even a bit of space. So we're not going to get the name, we're going to get the bake date baked. So it's not going to be the cake name. It's not going to be called cake name, it's going to be called date baked. Pet card date bake date baked. Same kind of thing. So it's not going to be cake name again, it's going to be expiry date. So Control C, Control V, Control V, and here as well. Okay. Now you can see that we have got the R's are currently red, and that's because we need to make sure they've got the imports. So do an Alt-Enter, and that'll fix it. Making sure you get rid of anything that isn't needed. Okay. So that is now actually everything written for the CakeAdapter. So now if we go back to the main activity, now it gives us the option to actually import the CakeAdapter. So if I do Alt-Enter, that's now fixed all of the error warnings, compiler errors, as well as the compiler warning on this page because that wasn't being called. And with that, that's the entire app written. So now we're going to open up the app in a simulator and show you it working. Okay, so I have an Android device here that has been plugged into my PC. I'm just going to press play on Android Studio. Get it running on my device. Okay, it's just doing a Gradle build. Launching. Okay, see it's coming up. As you can see, this is data that's being read from Firebase. So as you can see, we have two different types of cake here. So we have a Victoria sponge that was baked on the 30th of March and will expire on the 2nd of April. We've also got a chocolate fudge brownie that was made on the 2nd of March and will go out of date on the 4th of March. I've also got a entry here on my Firebase console that I'm about to add, and once that's added, it will pop up on the database. So click Add. There we go. Vanilla cheesecake that was baked on the 5th of April and will be expiring on the 7th of April. And there you go. We have created a Kotlin app that is able to read data from a Firebase database. All of the code written here will be available on GitHub. The link will be available in the description below. Please remember to like this video, comment what you'd like me to see build next in Kotlin, and please remember to subscribe to the Apps of the Sky YouTube channel for more quality app tutorials. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next time.